At the beginning of my career, I thought making people feel comfortable and making them feel supported naturally went together. I thought that if you were fair, approachable, calm, polite, if you treated people well, then respect would naturally follow. But I realized quite quickly it doesn't work that simply. It placed me in the wrong position as a leader. And more importantly, over time, it didn't always serve people I was trying to lead. Because when you confuse being thoughtful with keeping everyone comfortable, you can end up shielding people from things that may feel difficult in the moment, but are often exactly what help them learn, grow, and succeed. So in this video, I want to talk about the difference between being respected and simply being liked. Because leadership does require decency, but it also requires honesty, boundaries, and the ability to make people uncomfortable when the situation calls for it. Hello and welcome to my channel Cat Talks Business. As a management graduate with almost 10 years experience, I share practical insights and structured thinking about management and leadership. If you like this type of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And now let's get straight into today's video. You might have worked with managers who were harsh, dismissive, unpredictable, or difficult to approach. I've been there too. We remember how it felt to be spoken to badly, ignored, embarrassed, or made to feel small. So when we step into leadership ourselves, we naturally want to do it differently. We don't want people to feel afraid of us. We don't want every conversation to feel tense. We don't want to become the kind of manager people complain about after they leave the room. And that intention is not wrong. Usually it means you care about how your leadership affects people. But this is where it can become complicated. Because the desire to be better can eventually turn into the habit of avoiding anything that might make you seem harsh or unfair. This is relevant in many leadership situations. Given difficult feedback, addressing behavior, starting a disciplinary process, managing poor performance, or even letting someone go. The details may change, but the tension is often the same. You know something has to be said, and at the same time, you worry about how you'll be seen for saying it. I learned this quite early when I was leading a team of tutors. One of them was very experienced, someone with years of knowledge, confidence, and professional credibility. But the sector was moving quickly. Expectations were changing. Practice was developing. And over time, it became clear that some parts of their work were no longer meeting the standard we needed. I saw it, but I struggled to approach it directly. Their experience made the conversation feel more delicate. I didn't want them to feel dismissed or disrespected. So I tried to raise it softly, indirectly, almost hoping they would understand the message without me having to say it plainly. And that was my mistake, because soon the feedback started coming from elsewhere. Other people started noticing the same issues. Concerns were raised. And instead of hearing it early, privately and clearly from me, they began hearing it through the wider environment. That situation showed me something I did not fully understand at the time. I thought I was protecting them from feeling badly, but in fact, I was protecting myself from being seen as a difficult manager. That is the uncomfortable part many leaders do not like to admit. When we have had poor experiences with managers in the past, we can become very sensitive to becoming that person ourselves. We don't want to be seen as cold. We don't want someone to leave the room thinking we were unfair and call us names behind our back. So we soften, we delay, we look for a way to say a thing without really saying it, only to be seen as a nice person. But being a good leader doesn't mean you will always be seen exactly how you want to be seen. There will be moments where someone may not like what you say. They may think you are being too direct. They may feel frustrated, defensive, or disappointed. But in such situations, your responsibility is not to protect your image as the nice manager. It is to deal with the issue before it escalates or becomes damaging. If you want to lead properly, you have to be willing to sacrifice some of your own comfort. In my case, the situation became harder for that tutor because I waited too long to say clearly what I already knew needed to be said. And I never made that mistake again. We all seek acceptance. And in a professional setting, it can be especially strong when someone is new in leadership, recently promoted, or leading people who used to be their peers. We don't want the team to feel that you have changed. You don't want to seem as if the title has gone to your head. So instead of holding the line clearly, you try to prove that you are still approachable, still reasonable, still one of them in some way. And this is where your leadership can start to weaken, because boundaries are often the first thing we bend when we want to keep people happy. And I don't only mean formal boundaries. I also mean the everyday boundaries around your own role as a leader, what you accept, what you absorb, how available you become, and how often you allow people to hand responsibility back to you. This is where being helpful can start sending the wrong message. Of course, a leader should be approachable. People should feel able to come to you when something genuinely needs your judgment, support, or authority. Because stepping back too far can make people feel abandoned. I covered that in my previous video on delegation. Here, I'm talking about the other side of the problem. When you are available for everything all the time, people can start treating your attention as the easiest route around their own responsibility. When every small question gets your immediate attention, people can start bringing you every small uncertainty. When every excuse is accepted, accountability becomes something flexible rather than something expected. And when difficult parts of the work keep coming back to you, people slowly learn that they do not have to carry responsibility all the way through. And this matters because people learn from what you allow, and every tolerated behavior becomes a new standard. And do you know who usually notices that problem first? The reliable people, the ones who come prepared, meet deadlines, take responsibility without being chased, and keep doing things properly even when no one is watching. They notice very quickly when someone else keeps stepping outside the line and nothing really changes. And over time, they start asking themselves why they are still holding the standard that other people are allowed to ignore. And that is where you begin to lose them. The irony of trying too hard to be liked is that you may bend the boundary to avoid disappointing the person pushing it. But the respect you lose often comes from people who are never asking you to lower it. The people who care about the work do not need you to be endlessly agreeable. They need to know that responsibility is shared fairly, that the line still means something, and that doing things properly will not leave them caring more than everyone else. So when you keep adjusting boundaries to keep one person comfortable, the cost is often paid by people who are already doing the right thing. Another thing that becomes harder when you try too much to be liked is making decisions. And I don't think people fully understand this until they are actually in a leadership position. Because sometimes the hardest part is not working out what needs to happen. The harder part is knowing that whatever you decide, someone may not be happy with you. There will almost always be someone who feels disappointed by the decision you make. And when you care a lot about being seen as fair, approachable, and supportive, it can be easy to focus too much on avoiding that disappointment. And of course, leadership is not about ignoring people or forcing your way through every situation. Good decision-making often involves compromise. You listen, you consider different needs, you look at the bigger picture, and sometimes you adjust the decision because new information genuinely matters. But there is a difference between a thoughtful compromise and a weak decision. A thoughtful compromise still has a clear reason behind it. It still protects what matters. It still gives people direction. A weak decision is different. It usually happens when you are trying to keep everyone comfortable. So the decision becomes softer than it should be. You give a little here, adjust a little there. Avoid saying a clear no, and by the end, the decision may feel nicer in the moment, but it no longer solves the problem properly. This is where trying to be liked can get in the way of effective leadership, because effective decision is often not the most popular one. But popularity can be a poor measure of leadership anyways, because popularity is often about the immediate reaction. It tells you that people are pleased with you in that moment, but it does not necessarily tell you that they respect your judgment, trust your decision, or believe you are making the right call. And this is where aiming to be popular and liked becomes misleading. It can feel like the proof that you are leading well, but sometimes people like you because you make things easier, not because you make things better. People do not need to be satisfied with every decision you make. That is not realistic, and it's not the role of leadership. But they do need to understand that the decision has a reason behind it, even if they do not like it immediately. They should be able to see how it protects the team, supports the work, or helps them in the long run. Because approval that comes from popularity is not the same as being respected for the way you lead. The harder you try to be liked, the more difficult it can become to earn respect. At first, that sounds strange because it can feel like being liked means being respected. It feels like people are responding well to you. The atmosphere is calm. People come to you easily, and you do not feel much resistance around you. But leadership is tested more clearly when things are not easy. It is tested when you need to say no, hold a boundary, make a decision someone will not like, or when you need to tell the truth in a situation where silence would be more comfortable. And in those moments, people are noticing whether you can stay steady. They notice whether you mean what you say, whether your decisions change when someone is unhappy, whether you are fair when fairness is inconvenient, and whether you can be kind without becoming avoidant. That is where respect is built. Of course, respect does not come from being difficult for the sake of it. It does not come from being cold, distant, or making people feel small. People start to respect you when they realize your leadership is not driven by the need to be approved of. They see that you care about people, listen to them, and treat them properly, while still doing what the situation requires. And that is the paradox. When you stop trying to make everyone like you, you often become easier to trust. Not because people will always agree with you, but because they can see where you stand. They may not like every decision. They may not enjoy every conversation. They may even feel frustrated with you in the moment. But if they can see that you are fair, consistent, and honest, they are much more likely to respect the way you lead. Because being liked can disappear very quickly. One unpopular decision, one boundary, one uncomfortable conversation can change it. Respect is different. Respect is built gradually, but it lasts longer because it is connected to trust, judgment, and consistency. So the aim is not to become less human as a leader. It is not to stop being approachable, decent, or supportive. The aim is to stop making approval and popularity the thing that guides you. Because people you lead do not need you to be liked by everyone. They need you to be someone they can rely on, especially when leadership becomes uncomfortable. And sometimes the moment you stop chasing approval is the moment people can finally begin to respect you properly.